Time it is. Thank you for tuning in, everyone. This is Tony Reeves, and welcome to another edition of Easy, but Not So Easy. And today, I want to talk to you about the easy, but not so easy parts of being the first in your work. Now, for those of you who are listening, I'm not talking about being the first person to arrive at your job. I'm talking about being a trailblazer, a trendsetter. You're an individual who has the distinction of being the first of whoever you are in your work environment. You could be the first person that's blind, first person that's deaf, first person that's black, first person that's white, first person that's Asian, first person that's a woman, first person that's trans. Whatever the case may be, you are the first. And people, let's take a moment. Put our hands in the air, spirit hands, and say, power to the people. You better do your thing. But I want to take you down the road for a second and talk to you about the fact that even though it's awesome to celebrate you being the first, let's talk about the easy, but not so easy parts about being the first and what that means to you. First, you're a trailblazer. Whether you want to acknowledge it or not, if you are in a space where they've never had anyone like you in it, you are literally creating opportunities for whoever is behind you. So you are a trailblazer, and I know you're probably saying, I'm just a person doing my job. And no one's saying that. But the reality is that if you are moving in a space and you're holding a position that no one else that looks like you has ever held that position before, you are going a long, 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 long way. And you should be really impressed with yourself and proud of yourself, because you, my friend, are a trailblazer that needs to be taken care of. Which means that as a trailblazer, that gives me to my second point, the experience. One of the things that we have to remember is that when you find yourself being in a position to do something that no one else has done, the reality is that every minute portion of experience you got, you can share with somebody behind you. Because guess what? If no one else has done what you've done before, there are going to be people who are going to benefit from the fact of the knowledge that you're achieving from what you're doing. And trust when I tell you, that is a powerful thing, a powerful place to be. And as a result of that experience, guess what? You are laying the future right before your very eyes. What do you mean by that? Well, the reality is that if you're the first, you're probably not going to be the last. And so ideally, being in that space, not saying that you're going to be the standard bearer for future generations, but the reality is that if they've opened the door for someone like you to come in or have that opportunity, others will find that, since he can do that, I can do that too. And you can utilize that as a way to create opportunities for others to come behind you. So trust when I tell you, if you are in a position to be the first, trust me, you are a trailblazer in ways that you didn't experience. You will gain an immense amount of experience that you can then utilize to show and guide future generations that what you're doing is possible even for them. That, my dear, is the easy part. So let's talk about the not so easy part. First, cultural clashes. This is the thing that I often struggle with people when I tell them this. The reality is that no one is telling you to leave your culture at the door when you walk in. But the reality is that there are going to be certain aspects of the job that everybody does the same, so nobody worries about that. But there may be cultural aspects of what you do that may be a challenge to others. If you are of a particular demographic where, let's say you're a Sikh or you're Muslim and wearing a head garb is a particular type of thing. If you practice a religion that does not permit you to do certain things at certain times, those things may cause a challenge, not from a negative standpoint, but just from the standpoint that you're now in an environment where maybe everyone operates under one particular cultural nuance. Your way of doing things culturally is just a little differently. Not wrong, but different. And as a result, that may result in some cultural clashes. But then that also may lead itself to my second point, potential conflicts. Again, no one is saying that, but let's switch gears and let's talk about it from the standpoint of, a working environment. Okay, in terms of, let's take a moment to think about it from a woman's standpoint. Imagine a woman who's in a work environment and guys are used to making crude jokes about women. Well, guess what? If those crude jokes make her uncomfortable, there may be some people who are sensitive enough to say, you know what, I need to stop saying those things because those are inappropriate. But guess what? There still might be some guys who feel that they should not have to change how they've behaved in their environment where it had been permissible. And let me be clear when I say this. When I say it's permissible, I'm not saying that the employer sanctions anything. I'm just saying that the employer may not have addressed those issues in the past because the jokes were made not about other guys. They were made about women who weren't there. Now you got a woman there. So how are you going to deal with that? And so that might be a potential conflict that didn't exist before, but now exists now because guess what? You're there. Which then goes to my final point, the future. As I talked about the easy part about the future, here's the negative part about the future. If these are things that the employer hasn't accounted for, and more importantly, hasn't figured out ways to create avenues for how to effectively address them, whether it be through internal processes, just creating relationships with the management and so forth, then what may happen is that those people's experiences is what they're going to share with the outside world. So guess what? If I'm in a work environment as a black man that tends to have people who make a lot of racially insensitive jokes or racist jokes, I'm going to be inclined to let people know, hey, if you're working in this environment, just know culturally this is what they tend to do. Be prepared. If I'm sitting here and I've had women work around and there's guys who make those bad jokes and so forth, and all of a sudden we get a new woman, I may have to say to her, listen, make sure you keep your management on speed dial because we have a few guys here who didn't get the memo that the jokes that they've made are not appropriate. And so as a result, that might impact the ability of others to make the decision and say, you know what, life's way too short to deal with all of that drama. I ain't the one, so I'm not going to do it. So what does that bring us to in the grander scheme of things? Well, the important thing is to remember this. Anytime someone is a trailblazer and they're coming into a new work environment, there is going to be a learning curve for both sides. The reality is that when anybody comes in and they're the first, and in some instances the only person of their culture, creed, kind, whatever the case may be, they've already demonstrated they have the skill sets and the ability to be able to excel in the job. Working out the nuances shouldn't be an issue, but in the event that it is, just be prepared to work with the individuals, and especially if you find yourself in a great environment where you have a culture that wants to engage you in a manner so that this way they can pave the way for others who are just as qualified as you can come in right behind you and keep this thing moving. All right, everyone. As always, thank you for tuning in. You know you can hit me up on AnthonyReeves.com. And please, if you haven't had an opportunity to do so, make sure you sign up. Give me a comment. Give me some feedback, people. You know I love to hear what you got to say. And as always, I have to end with my favorite question of the day. Are you ready for the Anthony Reeves experience?